Welcome to another episode of What's That Pen, helping you find your next perfect pen without wasting all of your money. Today we are looking at the Swiss pen that I am nervous to pronounce and have had for a while and just haven't reviewed because I don't know how to pronounce the name. But now that we all know that I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong, don't tell me in the comments how to pronounce it, it's fine. Because we're all going to read. It's the Fibralo brush by this company, Caran, and it's a Swiss company. So because in Switzerland, of course, they speak a few different languages, this one just happens to be probably from the French section of Switzerland. Little Switzerland detail there. I first got these pens when I was in Switzerland, which is why I don't have the package anymore, because I started using them right away. The black pen and gray pens are just in my black and gray collection, so they're also not here. But that's also part of the set. You can get them in either a 10 set or a 15 pack, and they are a little bit more on the expensive side, as is most stuff from Switzerland, because it is known for quality over necessarily getting a cheap cost, because they're all about getting stuff that lasts. So let's see how well these work. In the product details, it does say that you can write with one pen for 700 meters. I'd like to see who tested that one out. Like, let's see how far I can get, and just kept going. So 700 meters worth of pen. These are a water-based pen. They're made with a food color ink dye so that they are supposed to be safe. They say that they can wash out of most fabrics because it's water-based. They also say you can do watercolor with it. Let's test that out and see how that works. But they are more expensive. They're about $3 per pen, give or take. Of course, depending on where you buy them. Remember that depending on where you buy them and even when you buy them, the price always changes. Let's open up one of these pens and test it out. Now, it is a large size pen, but has a deceptively small tip. I mean, that's fine. We don't judge a pen by its tip size. So it has the same color on the end, which can be really helpful for matching your caps up again, not having to just look at the color of the tip. But it is definitely a felt nib that is a brush nib. Because it is a smaller size tip, that means that its upstrokes can be relatively thin, but it does still have quite a bit of flex, allowing you to get thick downstrokes. So let's compare our upstrokes and downstrokes. So our thick downstroke is about 1/4 of an inch, and the thin upstroke, because the tip, it has flex, but it is also relatively firm in that even with a thin line, you can feel that your pen is on the page, which is really important for getting consistent thin upstrokes. There's quite a difference between the thick and the thin, which means that it has drama. For Nib Rebound, let's see, I always like to pick a color that I don't really like, just in case this ruins the pen. So we're going up and down just on one side. And then looking at the tip, it has bent up a little bit from this bottom point. You can tell when you turn it that it doesn't look perfectly straight, but it's not overly curved. So I would say that the Nib Rebound is okay. Remember that if your Nib Rebound is not like superior, you're probably going to need to just turn your pen a little bit more as you're writing, which is best practice anyways, to keep that tip nice and taut, tip-top. Tip, top, top. Now the writing size for these pens is on the larger size, but it's not fully a large. I would say that it's a medium large. And the reason for that is because you can still get those really fine upstrokes, but because you have the thicker downstrokes, it needs to be a little bit bigger, but getting those fine upstrokes allows you to still keep your letters a little bit tighter, since you're not losing a lot of space in the insides of your letters. For juiciness, let's see how juicy these are. So coloring in the cup and then smear. Okay, there was no smear. It didn't even feel wet. They are dry pens, but not in the sense that they seem dry on the page. The color concentration and what's coming down on the page is very, very saturated, but it's not saturated with a lot of extra water pushing more ink out. It's saturated with the actual color of the ink. Does that make sense? So not a lot of water and ink comes pouring out, but it's just very saturated, high color ink when it does come out. So ease of transition, when we are going from a thin upstroke into a thick downstroke and then back up, This is what I mean about getting those teeny tiny little upstrokes. And you'll see that the transition from one to the next is also very, very smooth. So you can get really nice upstroke and downstroke transitions from one to the next. Here I went a little too fast. That was user error. But also, one thing that I noticed when I was writing out the name of this pen is that my transitions were so easy to control. Always by the bottom, I could get those nice thin upstrokes again, which with some pens that are a little bit floppier, more loosey-goosey, you can't get those crisp transitions to the upstrokes. So getting that here means that like these pens are a wow for transition. So on a scale of yay, okay, nay, and stay away, these are definitely a yay pen. These pens have downsides like the cost, and they can be hard to get because they're more of a specialty item and they are a high quality specialty item. That being said, some of the colors are relatively unique. So this pink is not the pink that you would expect, the bubblegum pink. It's a little bit different. It has this strange greenish color, which might not be my first choice, but sometimes can be nice, especially if you're trying to do naturey things. But the fact that it writes so nicely means that these would be ones that I would reach for on a very regular basis. I've also had these pens for a really long time now, and even though I am continually using them and have been using them for years, I mean, maybe there was something with that ability to use it for 700 meters because mine are still going very, very strong. And even my purple one, the purple actually looked like it had completely dried out on the tip. I just colored with it for a little teeny tiny bit, and suddenly all of my color was back in the tip of the pen, and it's ready to go all over again. Having such a long life also makes that $3 price tag a little bit easier to swallow when you know that it's going to be a good pen for you for a long time. So pros and cons for this pen. Con, it's a little bit more expensive, harder to get. Pro is that it's going to last you for a really long time. The tips are really nice to work with. You can get super crisp, thin upstrokes. I've had them forever. They're still working. I think I've had them for 5 years now, still working, and there is a nice variety of colors for you to use. So there's a 10-pack or there's a 15-pack, and it also comes with black and gray, which are not seen here because I've already taken those because I use them on a regular basis for black and gray stuff. If you want to see any more about any other pens you can think of, I've probably done a review on it. Make sure that you check out the full list so that you go into your next pen purchase knowing exactly what you're getting.